Hey, how's it going, Tom? That first video, how'd you like it? Versus did you see that Cummings opening? I really doubt it was too hard for you to digest, so I'm gonna have another video for you. And where better to start for our theory than at the very beginning, as green and blue. So this opening, this is going to be our opening idea versus this idea, the knight up and the king pawn variation. So I was looking, interesting. Let's see what that was about. So capital F here somewhere. One second, man. Let me just see what that was about. For some reason, it doesn't like the PGN here. Even though I copy pasted this PGN. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. So, here we're looking at the king pawn opening. Again, knight up. What's the big idea here? Big idea is, of course, this idea, but I think even more potent is this idea. This idea right here. Because to prevent this idea, I really think you have to just push that pawn. Moving the queen over here, I originally thought this was the right idea, but I think with careful and precise play, it can still be pretty bad because you can attack the queen with tempo, you can attack the pawn. This is just a really, I'm just going to show you something here. Something that I noticed when I was playing through here, thinking about how do I beat this. I was thinking, okay, so first of all, the idea behind this opening is to use the rook and the knight or bishop to attack the king. This is how you try to break free because it's just so difficult. Like you move over here, the knight attacks. Sorry, the bishop attacks. You move anywhere out of the line of sight, knight goes in. This is just a really difficult opening. And here, if yellow does that, and you block, which is my idea, then this is still, it's still, they're up a piece. So what I originally had to come to the conclusion of doing is that the best way to fight against this opening is to change our opening. And how we do that is instead of moving the pawn up 1 for green, we move it up 2. So, check it out. We're just going to look at a lesser line first, something that you should probably know doesn't work, but just in case, I wasn't full on it either, but just, so what you do here is you move the pawn up 2 spaces. Queen goes in for the pin. Push the pawn, attack the knight. Now, this open check, a lot of times people just think, oh, you need to block the check. Check is not anything you have to worry about. It does nothing here. Just push the pawn and this leads nowhere because you do here. It's tricky. I had to find this. You have that. Additionally, you have that. And so yellow has to block, and then, whoops, I did that arrow. That's kind of funny. Then you move in for that, right? And this threatens the mate and also goes down that way. So you got to block, then you move down here. What can yellow do? Take. And you just completely nullify the attack with the queens. So the check is nothing you have to worry about here. So because the check is not anything that you have to worry about, and because you have to move so quickly in this opening, for this idea I have to work out, the move right here is to push the pawn to attack the knight. And so how we attack that knight, how we attack red in this opening, rather. Again, you're going to use the rook to defend. So here, push that pawn, move it up 2 to block that check. Queen goes up, attack the knight, and here you move the knight up. Why? To give yourself options for what you want supported by that rook, how you want to go about this. Now, if you push the pawn, just take the knight and you block with the bishop. So you take back, and then you have this check, and that check is pretty brutal. And you move in, and you get an active rook. So this rook, I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on here. We could analyze this further tonight, but I think it's, to me at least, it seems pretty clear that this is a good idea for blue-green. You also have that idea. So anyway, that's what I saw. So if you don't, like, let's say you don't push the pawn, because the idea here, the reason why this opening is so difficult for blue-green is that if you don't act quickly, if you get red and yellow to box blue in, which is their plan really, then if the blue pieces cannot get active, red and yellow can just team up on green. The idea here is if they move the knight, push the pawn. If they push the pawn, attack the pawn, right? And it's just really, really difficult, if not impossible, for blue to be of any assistance when the queen is just sitting here worried about that knight moving in to attack the rook. So what if they play smart here? Right, hold on a sec. Yeah. What if they move the bishop in? Oops, what did I do there? That's you messaging me right now on Discord. I just sent you the first video. Alright. Let's check it out. Here, in this line, instead of pushing that pawn, what we do is we push the bishop up to attack the rook. So you still take. And here, instead of blocking with the bishop, moving with the knight. And so let's say red takes the rook. Then you can just, you might think we could just go for that. There's something even stronger here. What you do is you take that pawn and go in for check. And I mean, if you move back, right, like let's say that here you just go in for that mate. And so you move up, and of course the threat is to push the pawn, and then that's checkmate. So if you block that, then you just move over here, and that's checkmate. So this is my idea for how to beat this opening for red-yellow, because actually it's really, really strong if blue and green don't act quickly. In fact, it was so strong that I was even considering if this is stronger than our opening at one point. Thankfully, it's not. I love our opening. So let's look at one final attempt right here to maintain this position for red-yellow. So here, same opening. Queen goes out, knight up. What if you use the pawn? Right, and here you still take. And this time you block. Why is that? It's because bishop's not there to defend that pawn. Right, and then this is the idea. This is a pretty serious attack, right? So then you move the queen in. And is red, you want to block that mate. Queen does that threat. So then you move in, check anyway, and then you go in for that check. It's green. So you move in, check, and you just lose the queen. And the idea is that, of course, I mean, obviously you lose the queen if you go there. But the idea is that that's the only real way that they can continue their attack, right? Because you have this idea. That's pretty brutal. So the pawn, of course, weakened the kings too much, and it's just not going to work out. So finally, there's one more option for red yellow here. And if you think this needs to be explored more in depth, we could totally do that. But the final idea here for red yellow, and I think this is just a bad idea, is in this opening, if the knight just moves back. This happens a lot, but here you just block off the knight. And this knight is only really going to be a threat if yellow ever gets a chance to either check or attack blue's piece. Like attack blue's queen or take blue's knight, and then you could overload him. So I'm just looking at this opening, gotta block it off. This is logical. Blocks off the queen from taking, opens up a line of check. I was thinking just move the knight up. And here it's pretty similar, but once you move that knight up, to me, there are just so many different ways of going about this, right? You can still go in for that check. Probably the blue queen really wants to get active next. I was thinking of moving the queen up there. You could go for that. This idea. Of course, if you do that, and the yellow queen takes, that could be bad. Green can come in. You have this idea. So this could really be something that we look into a little bit more detail. I'm not 100% sure on this knight move right here. Maybe the queen is good because then you have that. That's another option. Instead of moving the knight, just move that queen up. Again, I really have not explored this one nearly as much. So, what do you think, man? Do you think the queen or do you think the knight is best here? But yeah, this is an overview of this opening idea. The most brutal continuation is with the queen up there, the knight there, and then you always push that pawn to either ward off or take the knight. And then depending on what red does, you're moving with either the knight or the bishop, because both of those are pretty brutal. So let me know what you think, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.